I was in love with someone who didn't love me back. Heartbroken, I went to my brother for advice. He looked at me with disdain and said, "If you like him, go get him. Don't be a coward." I thought he made a valid point. So that night I tied my brother to his bed. I silenced his angry curses. In the end, he could only cry and beg, "I'm your brother." Meeting his furious gaze, I kissed his sweat-dampened hair. "I know, baby." Chapter 1. I kicked the door open at the board meeting. A group of old men were surrounding my brother, urging him to agree to a political marriage. For the sake of the company, what is sacrificing a little personal emotion? Laurent, looking serious, was about to nod when my kick interrupted him. The man who had been speaking so enthusiastically turned his head, saw me, and immediately shut his mouth, shrinking back into his chair like a fat quail. I hooked his chair with my foot, sneered, and patted him on the shoulder. "Daniel looks quite charming. Why don't you go for the marriage instead?" Daniel smiled awkwardly, the flesh on his face bunching up. "Surely I'm not suitable at my age." Relying on my reputation as a little tyrant and my reckless passion for car racing, I always acted without scruples. These board members never dared to mess with me. I sat lazily on the conference table, swinging my legs. "Whoever forces him into a blind date again, you might as well come to me first. I'd be happy to pay a visit to your home." The group looked at the wide-open door and fled in panic, terrified of catching my attention. There used to be a manager, a greasy middle-aged man who harassed female employees. I sent him a bouquet made of steel wool. His formidable wife took care of him thoroughly, beating him black and blue. When everyone had left, only the two of us brothers remained in the conference room. Laurent, who hadn't spoken, frowned. "Kneel." My nose stung, but I walked up to him and obediently knelt down. Although Laurent didn't show much emotion, I knew him well enough to know he was angry right now. He smoked a cigarette and kicked me in the chest. "Kneel further away." The kick wasn't heavy. I pretended it hurt, grabbing his ankle and refusing to let go. "Brother, it hurts." "Hurts? Why didn't it hurt you to death? You dare to do anything now?" I lowered my head, pretending to be pitiful and obedient. I was best at this trick. Our parents died early, and Laurent raised me single-handedly. Having been beaten by him countless times growing up, I had long since gained experience. I hugged his leg and couldn't help nuzzling against it. "Anyway, you can't get married." Laurent put out his cigarette, rubbed his brow irritably, and pushed me away with his foot. "Why did you come back to the country?" I knelt on the ground with proper posture. I should have been in Los Angeles preparing for training, but when I heard he was going to be married off, I rushed back immediately. But I couldn't tell the truth. I drooped my eyes. "My love life hasn't been going well lately." My brother sat up straight and looked at me. I continued to play the victim, looking up at him. Under the light, Laurent looked cold and aloof, his eyelashes long. His lips, having just smoked, were red, making one want to kiss them fiercely, to make them even redder. "You're in a relationship?" "No, I just fell for someone, but he doesn't like me." The air fell silent. Laurent frowned and lit another cigarette, his fingers unconsciously tapping the table. This was his habit when he was impatient. After a long while, he looked at me disdainfully. "If you like someone, go chase them, you coward." If I like them, I should chase them? I had been agonizing over how to confess to my brother for so long, and suddenly I was enlightened. I had never thought of this method, but my brother must be right. "What else?" Laurent raised an eyebrow and scolded jokingly. "Are you content with just being friends? Are you short of friends?" I nodded seriously. "Makes sense." So that night I treated my brother to dinner. When my brother arrived at the hotel exhausted from the company, it was already dark. With his suit jacket draped over his arm, he glanced around the hotel room. "You're treating me to dinner here?" I nodded and had the hotel bring the food in. The waiter pushed in a cart full of dishes and also brought a bottle of good foreign liquor. While eating, I kept pouring wine for my brother. Halfway through the meal, he remembered to ask, "Didn't you say you were going to chase someone?" "I am chasing them." Laurent's hand holding the wine glass trembled slightly, spilling wine onto the back of his hand. The whiskey glistened under the light. "After dinner? I'm chasing them right now." My brother was already a bit dizzy from the drinks I poured him. His reaction was half a beat slow as he looked around the room and asked in confusion, "Where is the person? Aren't you right here?" Laurent thought for a long time, then suddenly stood up and looked at me in disbelief. "Say that again?" Seeing his hands shake with anger, I pulled him over and couldn't help kissing the back of his hand. licking off the spilled wine. The spicy taste spread in my mouth, carrying a hint of sweetness. My heart beat fast. Laurent tried to pull his hand back in surprise, but I pressed his hand to my chest, letting him feel my frantic heartbeat. "Brother, I like you." One sentence froze Laurent in place. After a long while, he suddenly started pacing the room like an ant on a hot pan. He anxiously loosened his tie, looking devastated. "We are both men." "I know." I stood still, quietly blocking the door. "I don't like men, and I'm not interested in women. I only like you." I had already booked a flight to the US for tomorrow. There was a race waiting for me there, so I had to settle things with my brother tonight. This was a plan I had prepared all day for. I even looked up information online specifically to give my brother a good first experience. Laurent fretted for a long time, finally sitting helplessly on the sofa and starting to persuade me earnestly. "It won't work between us." "Why not? We aren't biological brothers. My real brother died in a car accident with our parents long ago. Laurent was the child of my parents' benefactors and became my guardian after my parents passed away. At 15, he took on the responsibility of raising me. From when I was 10 until I was 24, we had always depended on each other. He was the only person in this world who could sign a surgery consent form for me. He raised me single-handedly and was the most important person in my life. I couldn't accept him being with someone else. Nor could I tolerate anyone being more important in his heart than me. "Angus!" Seeing I wouldn't listen, Laurent got emotional, veins popping on his clenched fists. I said no means no. His rejection made my nose sting, and tears couldn't help falling. Seeing me cry, my brother froze. The words of rejection stuck in his throat, unspoken. After crying for a while, I started to apologize. "Brother, I'm sorry." Then, before he could react, I cried as I threw him over my shoulder and walked straight to the bedroom. Although my brother was 6 feet tall, he was slender, and at 6'3", I could easily subdue him. I used a lot of strength. He couldn't break free and could only curse, "You bastard!" I turned my head, looked at his face flushed from struggling, and kissed him with satisfaction. "Yeah, I'm a bastard." Laurent was usually aloof and quiet. I rarely saw him lose control of his emotions. Right now, he dodged my kiss, but I held the back of his head and deepened it. My tongue was bitten until it hurt, the taste of blood spreading in my mouth. My hands on his waist and the back of his head pressed harder, almost kneading him into my embrace, unwilling to back down. I was gambling, betting that he couldn't bear to bite my tongue off, couldn't bear to truly hurt me. Sure enough, the metallic taste grew stronger, and spots of blood seeped from my lips. Laurent's expression changed, and he loosened his jaw. I took the opportunity to deepen the kiss. Blood mixed with saliva was exchanged between us. My body temperature rose rapidly, my skin burning hot. Hugging his lean waist tightly, my heart felt filled with honey, so sweet it was about to overflow. After the deep kiss ended, my brother was much more subdued, leaning weakly in my arms, panting, his eyes watery. It wasn't until I started unbuckling his belt that he began to struggle again. "Be good, don't move." My brother didn't listen and raised his hand to stop me. With no other choice, I tilted my head and gently sucked on his earlobe. My brother instantly turned red from his neck to his ears, and his push against me became weak. I took the chance to undo his tie, bind his hands, and secure them to the bed. My brother cursed for as long as the lights were on that night. I kissed him while continuing my movements. In the end, he bit his lip tightly to keep from making a sound. His eyes lost focus as he stared at the ceiling, looking as if he had just been fished out of the water. He could only whimper and beg for mercy in a low voice, hoping to awaken my conscience. "I'm your brother." I met his angry gaze and kissed his sweat-dampened forehead. "I know, baby. From the day I realized I liked you. Brother, you could only be mine." As dawn approached, I carried the limp Laurent to the bathroom to clean him up. Touching the warm water, he moaned softly and fell back into a deep sleep. In the bathtub, I held him in my arms, carefully kissing the side of his neck, leaving mark after mark to declare my sovereignty. When I woke up, I would have to go back to the US and wouldn't return for a week. Even though he was right in my arms, I felt a sense of loss. This feeling of gain and loss made my chest ache, and I desperately needed intimate contact to alleviate my inner insecurity. I looked down at Laurent. Even in his sleep, he was frowning. But compared to when he was awake, he seemed soft and compliant now, which moved me even more. After watching for a long while, I smoothed his brow, reached out to gently clasp his neck, and kissed him awake. No. Laurent groaned, his voice hoarse. In the water, he could only weakly hold onto my arm, letting me kiss him deeper. The water in the bathtub was agitated by my movements, spilling all over the floor. The scene that had appeared in my dreams countless times growing up had finally become reality today. I hugged Laurent tightly, imprisoning him in my arms, feeling his existence to counteract the loss of our imminent separation. Until his breathing became even, I sighed and kissed the shell of his ear. Brother, please like me. Chapter 2. When I woke up, my brother was already gone. The time had been so short that I doubted he had slept at all. But I still had to get on the plane back for my race. Perhaps because my wish had been fulfilled, my mental state was excellent. In this year's 24 cumulative races, I ranked first in total points. When the news of my championship reached home, countless friends sent congratulations. The only one missing was a message from my brother. I called him. No one answered, but at least I hadn't been blocked. After landing back in the country, fans picking me up surrounded me. In the past, whenever I returned, no matter how busy he was, my brother would always come to pick me up. This time, I signed autographs and took photos with every fan, but after 5 hours, I still didn't see him. After leaving the airport, I drove straight to the company, but was stopped by the special assistant when I reached the top floor. Mr. Laurent is busy and doesn't have time to see you. He stubbornly blocked my way and refused to move. At that moment, the faint sound of a woman's laughter came from Laurent's office. In an instant, all sorts of speculations flashed through my mind. Anger accumulated in my heart bit by bit, clouding my judgment. I lost control of my emotions a little, pushed the special assistant aside, and kicked the door open despite the obstruction. In the office, a woman was half reclining on the sofa, talking on the phone. Seeing me, she froze for a moment, then casually hung up the phone, looking surprised. It seemed she didn't understand why I was so angry. Angus! Unexpectedly, she knew me. I scanned the office, looking for my brother. But Laurent was nowhere to be seen. Unable to suppress the bitterness in my heart, I asked with a choked voice, "Where's my brother?" Hearing me ask about Laurent, the woman smiled inexplicably shyly, her cheeks flushing red. "He's taking a shower." In an instant, my anxious heart felt as if it had been doused in ice water, cold from my chest to my entire body, even my fingertips freezing. Only then did I hear the sound of water coming from the back room of the office. "What's wrong with you? Don't cry," the woman exclaimed in surprise and hurriedly handed me a tissue. My face felt a little wet. Touching my face, I realized I was crying. Just then, the sound of the shower in the room stopped abruptly. My brother came out wearing a bathrobe, looking at me coldly. "Brother." As soon as I opened my mouth, I realized my voice was terribly hoarse. "Do you not want me anymore?" I couldn't help it and cried even harder. "Can you have a little dignity?" Laurent frowned irritably and instructed the special assistant to escort the woman out first. As soon as she left, I rushed to him and hugged his leg, crying, "Do you really not want me anymore? You can't abandon me, brother. I only have you." Laurent's originally icy gaze softened upon hearing the last sentence, and he patted my shoulder to comfort me. "We will always be brothers." That day. He paused, the tips of his ears turning red again. "Let's just treat it as an accident. We both cut our losses in time. Our relationship as brothers won't be affected. You saw it too, that was my girlfriend just now. I don't like men, so you'd better." Before Laurent could finish speaking, I knocked him out with a chop to the neck. By the time the special assistant returned to the office, it was empty. I drove along the highway, my brother wrapped in his bathrobe, unconscious in the back seat. At the open collar of his bathrobe, red marks and bite marks still remained on his exposed collarbone. Those were left by me last time. I absolutely did not believe my brother had any girlfriend. Laurent had a cold personality. Growing up, I had never seen him be close or gentle with anyone except me. He was lying to me. He must be. This was later confirmed. In a small wooden cabin on a deserted island, I held my brother's ankle, listening to him curse me. Laurent woke from his unconscious state, only to be knocked out by me again. After repeating this a few times, he finally couldn't take it anymore and began to beg for mercy. I seized the opportunity to force the truth out of him. "Is that woman really your girlfriend? If you don't tell the truth, I won't stop." "She is my girlfriend." I reached out and flipped him over. "She really is my girlfriend." I hugged his waist tightly and lifted him up. Laurent finally admitted defeat, his voice trembling. No, I lied to you." Satisfied, I kissed his sweat-dampened cheek. Baby is so good. Laurent no longer had the strength to resist, gasping for air with his head thrown back, his eyes vacant. It took a long while for him to recover and look at the simple furnishings in the room. Where is this? On a deserted island. Laurent's pupils dilated, and he sat up looking around for something. Where's my phone? I picked up the phone and waved it in front of him. Don't bother looking. This is a no man's land. There's no signal. Laurent deflated instantly, falling back weakly onto the bed. How long do you plan to keep me here? I didn't intend to imprison you. I just wanted an undisturbed environment for us to cultivate feelings. So you'll let me go only when I fall in love with you? Then let's both die here. I was overjoyed. You're willing to grow old with me and stay together until death? At first, I thought a trip to the primitive forest would rapidly improve our romance. But I hadn't expected that after waking up that day, my brother would be hungry. Is there anything to eat? I circled the room twice and found a bag of rice. My brother's expression looked like it was about to crack. I froze in place. We came in a hurry this time. I forgot to prepare vegetables. Can you cook? I froze again. No. My brother's expression completely collapsed. An hour later, I finally got a fire going and was grilling a fish I had just caught. My brother looked at the slightly burnt fish with disdain and took a small bite. Then he threw it far away. I didn't dare breathe loudly, staring at the fish in my hand, afraid of burning it again. In college, Simon and I often went deep-sea fishing, and my skills were good. But the fish caught were always handled by servants. I had never cooked one myself. Laurent stood up and looked around, gazing at the boundless sea. How did you bring me here? Car, then helicopter, finally yacht. Impressive. Laurent clapped his hands. I worked hard to earn money to send you to cultivate these hobbies. And in the end, they were all used on me, right? I didn't dare speak, burying my head lower. In the end, Laurent went hungry for a night, only drinking a bit of porridge. I had intended to cook rice, but I couldn't control the water amount, so it turned into porridge. At night, I wanted to sleep holding my brother, but as soon as I got close, I got slapped. My face burned with pain, and my brother coldly told me to get lost. That night, after my brother fell asleep, I searched the island all night with a flashlight and picked quite a few mushrooms. In the morning, I made mushroom porridge for my brother to go with grilled fish. With the mushrooms enhancing the flavor, my brother was finally willing to eat a few bites. Or maybe he was starving. He ate a full bowl. After eating his fill, my brother lay on the yacht sunbathing. Looking at his bare upper body, I unconsciously swallowed. After yesterday's events, new marks had been added to his body. Combined with his fair skin, those overlapping blue and red marks looked particularly eye-catching. I was originally massaging his legs, but at this moment, every cell in my body was screaming, and my hands started to wander. In the heat of the moment, my brother clung to my neck, covered in sweat. But suddenly he opened his eyes and stared at me blankly. Did you turn into a fox? Why did you grow a fluffy tail? As he spoke, he touched the top of my head. And ears. In an instant, the sweat all over my body turned cold. Brother, are you okay? I'm fine. Strange. Why are the fish over there walking? I instinctively looked at the pot of finished mushroom porridge. Because there wasn't much, my brother ate it all. I only ate grilled fish. Watching my brother start to converse with various marine creatures, I screamed, jumped off the deck, and drove the yacht back at full speed. As soon as we reached an area with signal, I hurriedly made a call. Once we docked, the ambulance took my brother away. Fortunately, it was just hallucinations caused by mild mushroom poisoning, nothing serious. My first sweet trip with my brother was thus forced to end. When my brother woke up and saw the hospital meal, his eyes lit up. Back home, he didn't care about scolding me or working. He went on a frantic eating spree at major restaurants for 3 consecutive days. And my brother blocked me directly. He even changed the house door code, refusing to let me come home. Begging for a week was useless. Late one night, I climbed into my brother's bedroom from the second-floor balcony. My brother was sleeping soundly in bed. I slipped under the covers, hugged the warm person into my arms, and sighed with satisfaction. My brother woke up groggily, saw it was me, and kicked me. I caught his foot and clamped it between my legs. Maybe he was too sleepy, as he fell asleep again. With dark circles under my eyes from days of poor sleep, I hugged my brother and slept through the whole night. Chapter 3. When I woke up the next day, the spot beside me was already cold. My brother had already gone to work. I took out my phone and saw my brother's name trending alongside a female celebrity's name. That female celebrity was Angel. She had starred as the lead in several popular TV dramas and seemed to be an artist under my company. A few days ago, the group had just announced her as the spokesperson. In the trending video, Angel spoke shyly to the camera. Me and Laurent? We're just ordinary friends. Only then did I recognize her as the woman who had been in my brother's office that day. People on Weibo kept leaking information that my brother and Angel had been dating for a long time. To protect Angel, my brother had kept it a secret. When I rushed to the company clutching my phone, my brother was in a meeting. He frowned when he saw me, but I suppressed my anger and obediently went to his office to wait. Upon entering, I noticed the sofa from that day had been replaced. Laurent suddenly changed the sofa. Who knows what they did on it that day? The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I called Bonnie and told her to cancel Angel's endorsement and terminate her contract. It would be best if Angel never saw my brother again in her life. A few cat meows came from the other end of the phone as Bonnie agreed in a low voice, saying she would handle it. Just then, Laurent got off work. Driving home, he passed an intersection without surveillance cameras. I cut him off and tied him up in my car. My brother cursed me the whole way. I turned a deaf ear. We switched cars a few times along the way and shook off Laurent's people. After driving for who knows how long, we finally arrived at a small wooden cabin in a primitive forest. Only then did I feel safe enough to untie Laurent. As soon as the rope was loose, Laurent slapped me. I pressed my tongue against the spot where I was hit, then grinned and offered the other side of my face. Brother, hit this side too. Laurent's hand froze in mid-air, helpless against me. This time I was fully prepared. I opened the cupboard and proudly showed my brother. Self-heating rice, self-heating hot pot, and instant noodles in various flavors. Everything you could want. Laurent didn't speak. He stood there dazed for a long time, then suddenly slapped himself. Brother, what are you doing? Distressed, I checked his face where he had hit himself. It was already a bit red. Don't hit yourself. If you want to hit someone, hit me. Laurent squeezed out a word through his teeth. Scram! Less than a week passed like this. One afternoon, I took out fish-flavored shredded pork rice and curry chicken rice for my brother to choose from. He suddenly threw everything on the ground. His voice choked with tears. I'd rather be dead than eat this every day. Angus, if you don't let me go back, I'll die right here for you to see. Dejected, I drove my brother home. It left a bitter taste in my mouth. Our second honeymoon was ruined just like that. Driving out of the no man's land, there was actually a barbecue stall by the roadside. My brother, who usually never touched such street food, sat down heavily on a greasy stool and ate 100 skewers in one go. After returning home, I asked my good friends Simon and Bonnie out for a drink. A while ago, Simon had made a big fanfare at his birthday party about inheriting the family fortune and getting the girl, so he'd been incredibly busy lately. As for the rich Miss Bonnie, because she had a crush on a female celebrity, she ran off to join the entertainment industry, only to be scolded by netizens so badly she couldn't lift her head. It was rare for the three of us to get together. I told them about the 2 honeymoons with my brother. They started laughing at me as soon as they heard it. Your brother's biggest misfortune in this life is having a younger brother like you. All right. I actually feel a bit sorry for him. I didn't say anything to their teasing. Simon was lucky in love now, so I could only make fun of Bonnie. I deliberately turned my face to the side, revealing the hickey on my neck, hinting at the gap between her and me. You've entered the entertainment industry and met Amy. Even filmed a show together, and still no progress? Holding her wine glass, Bonnie leaned listlessly against the sofa. You don't understand. I have my own plan. I scoffed, feeling a bit sorry for her in my heart. How about I sign her, and you chase her directly? Bonnie shook her head repeatedly. No way. People of her zodiac sign are slow to warm up. You can't rush it. That day, Simon laughed the loudest, almost deafening Bonnie and me. Felt like the sky was falling, until he pulled out 2 wedding invitations. Bonnie and I looked at each other, seeing nothing but envy in each other's eyes. Great, this kid got to show off his success again. I made up my mind to make my brother fall in love with me sooner, so he wouldn't have to suffer with me anymore. So I went to a chef to learn cooking and signed up for nursing and housekeeping classes. Simon and Bonnie laughed that I was becoming a nanny. I brandished my spatula in rebuttal. Haven't you heard a famous saying? What? To grab a man's heart, first grab his stomach. It's a pity they didn't understand the charm of a perfect man. Even sadder, my brother didn't understand either. Although Simon laughed at me, He still gave me a small island, saying it was to support my forced love plan. The villa on the island had been under construction for a long time. I accepted it happily. The start of the third honeymoon was a bit troublesome because my brother had hired a team of bodyguards to guard against me. But I still laid in wait for several days and knocked him out while he was using the restroom to take him away. My brother taught me from a young age that to deal with a target, you must strike when they are most vulnerable. When my brother woke up and found himself on an isolated island, he was much calmer than the previous 2 times. He even looked around with interest, finally fixing his eyes on a reef. If you feed me that junk again, I'll smash my head on that and die. But contrary to his expectations, this time I was good at everything from laundry to cooking. My brother looked at me like I was a monster. During the day, I took care of my brother meticulously. At night, I naturally collected my payment. One night, Laurent leaned back weakly, his body trembling uncontrollably. I lowered my head to kiss him, but he pushed me away. I'm going back tomorrow. No, I have important work tomorrow. Still can't go. Laurent's face turned red with anger. If I don't work, where do you think the money for your yachts and helicopters comes from? You can work remotely from here. There isn't even internet here? Do you want me to send messages by carrier pigeon? Speaking of this, I strode out of bed and lifted the red cloth covering the desk. An somewhat old telegraph machine appeared before our eyes. My brother's expression stiffened a bit. I introduced this telegraph machine enthusiastically. I spent a fortune to find this. Don't look down on it just because it's old. It's over 100 years old and still works. The other one is with your special assistant. You can give him instructions using Morse code. I also thoughtfully took out a Morse code user manual. My brother gritted his teeth and asked, "Does he have to tap the contract back to me letter by letter too?" I touched my nose guiltily. Theoretically speaking, yes. These few days on the island were the happiest of my life. My brother belonged completely to me. Aside from handling work with the telegraph machine for a while, he spent the rest of his time fishing and surfing with me. My life was held up by my brother's hands. His dedication made me who I am today. But since he was 15, he had been both father and mother, caring for me and educating me, never able to do as he pleased like I could. I took Laurent on a surfboard, weaving through the undulating waves, feeling the power of nature. The golden light of the sunset fell on his hair, and beneath the strands wet with seawater was a rare smile. This smile came from the heart, completely different from usual. I was mesmerized. Brother, will you hate me? Hate me for stripping away your freedom, possessing your body, and forcing you to love me? The answer to this question came that night when Laurent wrapped his arms around my neck. I have never hated you. This was the first time my brother responded to my kiss. I was dizzy with joy, holding him and deepening the kiss endlessly. That day we slept until dawn. I held Laurent, so sleepy I couldn't open my eyes, but my heart was full of happiness. I really wish time could stop at this moment, letting Laurent fall in love with me just like this. But I had a long and painful dream. In the dream, the car carrying Mom, Dad, and my brother was hit by a large truck. Blood flowed from the deformed carriage. 10-year-old me cried and threw myself into Laurent's arms. In the dream, Laurent stroked my head but said he was leaving. We can't be together. Crying, I chased after him but fell to the ground, only able to watch helplessly as he walked away. Brother, don't leave me. I woke up with a start, murmuring this sentence, and found my face covered in tears. The spot beside me was empty. Suddenly, the sound of a helicopter came from outside the window. I ran out, only to see Laurent sitting in the hovering helicopter, looking down at me. Calm down here for a while. In a week, I'll send someone to pick you up. The share transfer contract is on the table. I'm giving up all shares in the group and transferring them to you. You will inherit the group from now on. There is no longer a person named Laurent. From now on, there is no relationship between us. I am no longer your brother. After saying the last sentence, Laurent turned his head stubbornly and refused to look at me again. His lips moved as if giving an order, and the helicopter flew straight away. Brother! I chased after him desperately, but I couldn't reach him no matter what, and finally fell into the sea. The cold seawater swallowed me, and the waves kept pushing me away from the shore. I rose and fell in the sea, my heart aching as if cut by a knife. Don't leave me behind. I choked out the words, seawater constantly pouring into my mouth, stinging painfully. My body grew heavier and heavier, and I let myself sink toward the bottom of the sea. My life flashed through my mind. My life was short and Laurent was in most of it. This life felt long too, and I remembered every bit of time spent with him clearly. The final image froze on last night, when my brother, with moist eyes, hugged my neck and said he never hated me. Suddenly, I had the will to survive and struggled to swim upward. I couldn't die. I still had to find him and ask clearly. We agreed on a lifetime. Why didn't he want me anymore? Why didn't he even want the group anymore? When I swam back to shore, I was the only one left on the entire island. In my world, only I remained. Chapter 4. It took 3 days before Simon received my Morse code and came to pick me up. Perhaps the aura I exuded was too heavy, as he, who usually loved to joke the most, became silent and reticent. As we neared home, Simon gently patted my shoulder. Laurent has already announced that he is handing over the entire group to you. The company is currently processing the handover. Looking at the glittering night view of River City outside the window, I gave a faint After getting off the plane, Bonnie came to pick us up. She drove at the limit of safe speed, taking me directly to the group's entrance. As I was getting out of the car, Bonnie suddenly grabbed me. You are not fighting alone. Simon and I will always support you. Simon held my other hand. Don't do anything stupid, but if you really act on impulse, we will bear the consequences with you. Standing on the busy street, looking at these two best friends, the words thank you felt too formal, and I couldn't say them. I could only silently bump fists with them, then turned and walked into the brightly lit building. When the security guard at the door saw me, he immediately stood up and greeted respectfully, President. I froze for a moment. This sudden title caused an indescribable sting in my heart. I nodded in response and walked into the elevator to go upstairs. On the way, I thought a lot. When I saw Laurent, should I act relieved, or should I hug him tightly and cry my eyes out? But when I actually saw him, I was much calmer than I imagined. Why? I looked at Laurent, who was wearing gold-rimmed glasses and busy reading reports. I was supposed to return in a week. My sudden appearance surprised him a little. No reason. Do you hate me? Laurent pursed his lips tightly and didn't answer. I acted shamelessly like when I was a child. Brother, your silence means yes. Yes, I hate you. I fought back tears, turning my head so he wouldn't see. I don't believe you. Laurent was silent in his chair for a long time before suddenly sighing. You have to learn to grow up. I have my own things to do. It's better for us to keep our distance. But I couldn't accept the sudden break. Clearly, on that day on the island we walked, surfed, and kissed like a real couple. Just one night later, Laurent wanted to cut ties with me. He wanted to completely erase even the fragile brotherhood between us. Laurent left. I clenched my fists tightly, digging my nails deep into my palms until blood seeped out, barely holding myself back from chasing after him. Only the special assistant and I remained in the office. The look he gave me was strange. Mr. Laurent asked me to assist you in managing the group for half a year until you can operate independently. I sat in the chair, which seemed to still retain Laurent's body warmth. I won't manage it. Only he can manage this company well. Seeing my refusal, the special assistant suddenly became agitated. How long are you going to pester him? Do you think Laurent would have endured your insults for so long if not out of guilt? Laurent not only led the group to glory but also raised you for so many years. Instead of being grateful, you dared to kidnap him. Speaking of what I did to Laurent, he suddenly stopped, clenched his fists, his eyes full of undissolvable anger. Do you like him? I looked up at him. The special assistant froze for a moment, then turned and walked away, leaving only a light sentence. That's none of your business. You just need to manage the group well and stop disturbing him. That night, I sat by the window on the top floor and smoked all night. Laurent must have some secret I didn't know. He seemed to be planning something and deliberately hiding it from me. I recalled the first time I met Laurent, when my parents and brother died in a car accident. With a face full of apology, he helped me up from the heavy rain and told me that from then on, he would be my brother, my family, and would take care of me for the rest of his life. I didn't believe he would really abandon me. From that day on, Laurent vanished as if he had evaporated from the world. To avoid causing him trouble, I started learning to take over the group's work. Fortunately, I was reasonably smart, and after a week, I had some idea of what to do. The person happiest about this was the special assistant. He was eager to get rid of me sooner to go find Laurent. He was tight-lipped and refused to reveal Laurent's whereabouts. When facing me every day, he mostly carried a faint hostility and mockery. Until this day, when I went to help Simon teach his brother Martin a lesson. That bastard Martin actually dared to drug Daisy. However, after making sure the drug had no side effects, I changed my mind and kept the drug. When meeting with Simon and the others, Simon brought Daisy, and Bonnie brought Amy. Only I was alone. Daisy was also a fan of Amy. The two sat not far away chatting happily about topics girls were interested in. Did you find Laurent? Found him. I looked up at Simon. He left the special assistant with me, and the assistant will definitely go to find him. I've had people follow the assistant and discovered that Laurent is now living in a mountain villa with tight security. A guard every 5 steps. Could Laurent have some unspeakable secret? I nodded. Bonnie looked at me with concern. Then what do you plan to do? Unless I die, I will never give up on him. Simon and Bonnie breathed a sigh of relief simultaneously. Then why do you have such a bitter face all day? I'm annoyed by that special assistant. He definitely likes my brother. A love rival lingering in front of me every day, yet I can't drive him away. Bonnie analyzed. Laurent's true identity must be complicated. Simon suddenly changed the subject, smiling and leaning close to me. Are you afraid that, like in novels, he'll suddenly regain some special identity and have a fiancée arranged by his family? Then you'll have a sister-in-law. Sister-in-law? I narrowed my eyes and smiled, shoved the half-smoked cigarette into Simon's hand, and shouted loudly, "Oh my, Simon, why are you smoking again?" As expected, Daisy, who was chatting happily nearby, immediately turned her head. "Simon, didn't I tell you no smoking while we're trying for a baby? Smoke again and forget about having a daughter." Simon glared at me, threw away the cigarette, and hurriedly went over to comfort her. "Wifey." I didn't listen to my explanation. Watching Simon get scolded, Bonnie and Amy couldn't help laughing. I got up to go to the restroom, turned on the faucet, and started to cry. Although Simon's words were harsh, they weren't impossible. Someone like Laurent had a fatal attraction to both men and women. Besides, he hated me. Maybe I really would have a sister-in-law. Sister-in-law? Do they love him and understand him as much as I do? After crying for a while, I pulled myself together. Why can't I be my own sister-in-law? As long as I could be with Laurent, I didn't care what others said. What did it matter if I became my own sister-in-law? Anyway, Laurent could only be mine in this life. The more I thought about it, the more sense it made. I shouted sister-in-law a few times in the mirror to cheer myself up. When I opened the door, I ran right into Daisy standing awkwardly at the entrance. I'm here to use the restroom. Chapter 5. Laurent had blocked me on all his accounts. I searched for a long time and finally found his new phone number. I sent him a message. "Brother, save me." Looking at the small medicine bottle in my hand, the instructions said 1 pill was enough, but I swallowed several in one go. As long as Laurent still cared about me, he would definitely come. When Laurent traced my location and found me in the hotel room, I was kneeling on the floor in agony, murmuring "brother" over and over. Large beads of sweat rolled down my forehead, and I had torn my clothes into disarray, but my carefully styled hair remained exquisite. I considered myself quite good-looking. The moment I saw Laurent, I raised my head with difficulty, my whole body burning as if I had a high fever. My eyes were bloodshot, filled with desire and tears. I choked out, "Brother, I feel so awful." Behind Laurent was his special assistant, who looked at me in shock. Seeing Laurent didn't move, I continued to pant heavily, veins popping on my forehead as if I might explode at any moment. I crawled towards him bit by bit. "Brother, I don't know what's wrong. I feel like I'm dying. Brother, please help me." Laurent looked at me, sighed, and turned to the special assistant. "Go investigate." The assistant nodded, turned to leave, but then stopped. "Mr. Laurent, what about you?" By then, Laurent had already helped me up. Seeing my state, a flash of imperceptible heartache crossed his eyes. "I'm fine. You go out first." At an angle Laurent couldn't see, I secretly flashed a provocative smile at the assistant. He gritted his teeth in anger but dared not disobey Laurent's order, so he had to leave, closing the door for us. "Take you to the hospital?" Laurent helped me sit on the edge of the bed and reached out to touch my forehead. With teary eyes, I turned my head and rubbed against his palm, acting spoiled like when I was a child. "I don't want to go to the hospital. I might die from a burst blood vessel before getting there. Brother, please help me." Smelling the crisp scent on Laurent, I couldn't help leaning closer to him, my body's reaction growing stronger. Laurent looked at me quietly, then finally sighed softly. His hands trembled slightly as he unbuttoned my shirt. I couldn't wait to hug his firm waist, but he pushed me away with his forehead against mine. Don't move. I sat obediently, looking pitifully at Laurent as he sat on my lap and kissed my Adam's apple. I fought back the urge to push him down, enjoying this hard-won intimacy. But obviously my patience was limited. Laurent cursed me all night. When he cursed me, I would shamelessly kiss his ears. Baby, I missed you so much. The next day, I woke up before Laurent. Looking at him still frowning in his sleep, I couldn't help kissing between his eyebrows, holding him tightly in my arms, savoring the joy of regaining a treasure. It wasn't until the afternoon that Laurent woke up. As soon as he moved, I leaned in to ask if he was hungry. He pushed me away irritably and got out of bed, but his legs gave way, and he knelt directly on the floor. I immediately picked him up tactfully and carried him into the bathroom. Looking at the marks all over his body in the mirror, Laurent couldn't help cursing. "Are you a fucking dog?" I smiled embarrassedly. Before I could speak, he slammed the bathroom door in my face, nearly hitting my nose. As soon as my brother came out, I hugged him tightly. "Brother, I know what you were doing." I looked up at him. "I only have one request. Don't leave me behind. I can help you too." My brother's expression was hesitant. I struck while the iron was hot, half pleading and half threatening. "You know I'm stubborn. If you ignore me, I'll investigate your affairs myself, and I might encounter danger then." Sure enough, my brother immediately put on a stern face. "You are not allowed to act recklessly." I nodded obediently. "Brother, I listened to you the most. Then let go of me first." I pretended not to hear. After dinner, I offered to drive my brother home. He seemed surprised that I knew his address. While driving, I leaned over to kiss him while waiting for a red light. "I had someone follow your assistant to find the address." My brother pushed me away with disdain. "I didn't agree to anything. We can't be together." "It doesn't matter. It's just a matter of time." Just as the car got on the highway, my brother's face suddenly changed. "Something's wrong." If you can find out, it means others can too." As soon as my brother finished speaking, a convoy of cars appeared in the rearview mirror, accelerating towards us. My brother looked in the rearview mirror, took out his phone with a serious expression. "It seems the old man isn't doing well. I have to go back to the ancestral home." "What?" "My grandfather. My uncles are afraid I'll inherit the family fortune and want to eliminate me." I quickly organized the information in my head. So this was what he had been busy with. He turned to look at me, his eyes firm. "Angus, can you shake them off?" I dropped my joking attitude, gripped the steering wheel with both hands, and increased the speed to the max. The intense pushback accelerated my heartbeat. Fortunately, I was driving a McLaren today, and we quickly widened the distance. But more vehicles appeared at the intersection ahead. Dozens of cars surrounded us, trying to intercept us. I dared not imagine the consequences of being stopped. My brother's life was in my hands right now. My palms sweating on the steering wheel, I was more nervous than in any race. "Brother, do you trust me?" My brother looked straight at me and nodded solemnly. The convoy ahead began driving against traffic to block the road, attacking from both front and back. I didn't slow down but continued to charge forward, looking like I was about to crash into the oncoming cars. The drivers opposite seemed not to expect me not to slow down and slowed down in a panic. Just tens of meters away from collision, I swerved violently. The car scraped past the roadside guardrail. The violent bump almost made us jump. It was simply a thrilling scene from a movie. The car balanced on the tires of one side, the passenger side lifted high, passing through the gap in the convoy. The oncoming cars and the cars behind us almost collided. Screeching brakes sounded on the highway, and the smoke and dust from tires rubbing against the ground temporarily blocked their vision. Taking this opportunity, I drove the car into a nearby tunnel and disappeared from their sight. At the end of the tunnel, the assistant was waiting on a motorcycle in the roadside woods. I unbuckled my brother's seatbelt. "Can you ride a motorcycle?" "Yes." "Then ride the motorcycle back to the ancestral home. They won't expect you to go back now. The assistant and I will continue driving to attract their attention. As long as they thought Laurent was still in my car and I wasn't caught, he would be safe." My decision stunned my brother. He frowned and refused. "No, it's too dangerous." I looked into Laurent's eyes. "Go do what you have to do." I smiled, turning my head to hide my moist eyes. "Laurent, go." I had never called him by his full name. This made him understand my determination. Time was tight, and the convoy behind could catch up at any moment. I looked at the assistant and asked with a smile, "Are you afraid of death?" dare to get in my car? Someone needed to pretend to be Laurent in the passenger seat. My words aroused the assistant's fighting spirit. He huffed, opened the door to pull Laurent out, and sat in himself. Laurent put on the helmet, got on the motorcycle and stopped by my window. Angus, be very careful. Don't get caught. They will kill you. Why would they kill me? My question made him pause. He twisted the throttle. The motorcycle roared and sped out. At that moment, I stepped on the gas to follow him, the motorcycle and the sports car speeding side by side. Nearing the fork in the road, Laurent waved his hand, and I rolled down the window. I only heard him shout, "Because they know you are my weakness." The next second, the motorcycle turned into a small path, and I continued along the highway. My heart was pounding so hard I had to press my hand to my chest to stay calm. He cared about me, cared very much. Assistant, do you know what a weakness is? The assistant looked ahead expressionlessly. I sent a message to Simon. The convoy appeared in the rearview mirror again, following closely. I didn't expect us to die together. Talk to me. Talk about what? What you said last time. Why does Laurent feel guilty towards me? Chapter 6. The assistant remained silent for a long time. Just when I thought he wouldn't answer, he suddenly spoke, his voice somewhat low. He caused your parents' death. My hand slipped on the steering wheel, and the car speeding down the highway veered sharply out of the lane. I hurriedly adjusted the direction. The car scraped past the roadside, almost rushing down the embankment. Go on. My calmness made the assistant glance at me in surprise. Laurent's original name was Timothy, the only son of the Garcia family, the richest family. This generation of the Garcia family was supposed to be led by Timothy's father, but he died young. After losing his son, the old man wanted to groom Timothy, but he was old and his power was dispersed. The uncles from the branch families united for the family fortune, causing the accidental death of Timothy's mother, and then they wanted to kill Timothy. I listened carefully and suddenly interjected. In other words, my parents saved Timothy, but were targeted by the Garcia family who manufactured a car accident. My biological brother died in Timothy's place, and only then did Timothy change his name to Laurent, right? My analysis was logical and clear. The assistant sighed. Yes, so he has always felt guilty towards you, spoiled you, and wanted to compensate you as much as possible. No, you're wrong. He loves me. Just like Simon said, Laurent or Timothy, such a proud person who took charge of the family at 15 and developed the group into a top enterprise within a few years, possessed first-class means and strategy. The only reason he could be kidnapped by me time and again, allowing me to be close to him, was because he was willing. Otherwise, with my meager skills, it would be impossible to even get near him. This was confirmed during my probing that night when I drugged myself. I was the one who took the medicine, but both of us were moved. Simon and the others didn't expect that I would drug myself instead of my brother. Actually, there was no special reason, just that I couldn't bear to let him suffer even a little grievance, let alone pain. That would be worse than killing me. So, I preferred to lie on the floor myself, waiting painfully for hours. But fortunately, the result was good. My sentence, "He loves me," completely silenced the assistant. I continued to tease him. Opportunities to show off in front of a love rival were rare. You've been with my brother for so many years. Don't you understand him yet? If he didn't want to be found by me, there were plenty of ways, but why did I succeed every time? Think about it. The assistant really started to think, and after figuring it out, his face looked even worse. The convoy behind us was in hot pursuit. We had driven onto a mountain road with a narrow river beside it. The mountain road was narrow and rugged, and headlights appeared faintly ahead, another pincer movement from front and back. There were too many of them, we couldn't dodge. Seeing that we were about to be forced to stop, what awaited us might be death. Even the usually expressionless assistant looked grave and finally spoke. I really didn't expect us to die together. I snorted disdainfully. Who wants to die with you? I'm going to grow old with my brother. After saying that, under the assistant's astonished gaze, I slammed on the gas, turned the wheel, and rushed toward the turbulent river beside us. The car flew up, crossed the river surface, and landed heavily on the opposite bank. The strong impact made me grip the steering wheel tightly to maintain stability. The convoy behind was blocked by the river, only able to watch helplessly as we left. Safe for now. The assistant gripped his seatbelt tightly, his face pale as if he had just undergone a life and death test. Did you study business or stunt driving when you studied in the US? You drive like you're in a movie. Seeing his wretched appearance, I smiled even more happily. Nothing was more satisfying than showing off in front of a love rival. After driving for tens of kilometers, we arrived at a village. A conspicuous yellow Ferrari was parked by the roadside, and Simon was waving at us. Simon's car only has 2 seats. Find a place to hide in the village. I turned off the engine and parked the car randomly by the roadside. What about you? I'm going to find my brother. I'm worried about him. Those people won't let you enter the ancestral home easily. I know. I got into Simon's car, put on my sunglasses, looked at him, and snapped my fingers. I'll risk my life to get Laurent to his grandfather. The assistant acted out of character, looking at me seriously for once. I used to think you were just a playboy. I didn't expect. Never mind. I'll drive your car and lure them away. He reached for the car keys, but I dodged. Although I hate you quite a bit, I also want you to live to see my brother and me happy. I stomped on the gas and the car shot out like an arrow. We were driving so fast just now, yet we could always be caught up with, even blocked. If, as my brother said, they found out his identity and knew I was his weakness, it was very likely my car had a tracker installed. This was why I asked Simon to pick me up. But it wasn't enough. I needed an opportunity to enter the ancestral home openly. Needed to make them dare not act rashly under everyone's gaze. When I drove to the location of the ancestral home sent by the assistant, my brother also arrived on his motorcycle. Simon was indeed wicked enough. He hired a manure truck to accidentally tip over at the gate of the Garcia family estate, spilling its contents everywhere. The Garcia family hurriedly opened the gates to let people out to clean up. My brother sat in the passenger seat, looking at the news coming from inside. His grandfather had been in a coma for half a year and was now on his last breath, living in the small central building of the ancestral estate. Everyone in the Garcia family was waiting for him to pass away so they could divide the family fortune. I felt something was wrong, but while the gate was wide open, I drove in. People already crowded outside the small central building. A group of well-dressed men and women, all in black suits and dresses, pretending to wipe away tears. Everyone's gaze was focused on the second floor of the small building. But there was no sadness in their eyes, only unconcealable greed. The estate security guards wanted to stop my car, but dared not block it forcefully because I was driving too fast. I roared all the way in and stopped right in front of the small building. The sound of sudden braking was loud, and everyone looked at me in surprise, until they saw Timothy get out of the car. All gazes immediately became hostile. Just anyone dares to enter the ancestral home? Drive them out quickly. The leading middle-aged man ordered with a fierce look in his eyes. The bodyguards beside him pulled knives from their waists and walked toward my brother. Timothy stood in front of my car, gazing quietly at the second floor of the small building. He was only 50 meters away from reclaiming his life. Those bodyguards walked toward us. I stepped heavily on the gas, the roar of the engine shocking everyone present. Even my brother turned to look at me. I stuck my head out the window and smiled. If anyone dares to stop Timothy, I'll run you over. My life isn't worth much, but everyone here is a big shot. If I hit a few, I'll have made a profit. The expressions of those present changed. The leading middle-aged man was about to speak. The butler beside him ran over, sweating profusely. Someone released news that 2 female celebrities are secretly dating nearby. Now the hills outside the gate are full of reporters. Someone also reported us for fire safety issues, and the police are coming soon. Hearing this, the middle-aged man stared viciously at Timothy. You're ruthless, kid. Timothy's voice was icy. Uncle, you sent people to kill me so many times. The feeling is mutual. With that, he strode toward the small building. My car followed half a meter behind him, ready to act at any time. Timothy took a step, I followed a step, ensuring no one dared to come forward. Timothy was like a leading warrior, and I was the beast beside him, ready to strike. When the atmosphere was tense, the curtains on the second floor of the small building suddenly opened. The uncle glanced at the second floor window, waved his hand with a face full of disappointment, and stepped aside. The crowd parted to the sides, jealous gazes fixed tightly on Timothy. Just like this, he walked step by step to the door of the small building and pushed it open. Unexpectedly, the grandfather who was supposed to be bedridden with serious illness was sitting peacefully in a wheelchair, looking at Timothy. Looking closely, one could see the corners of his eyes were slightly moist. You're back. Timothy gave a faint affirmative response. I passed all your tests. This sentence made everyone present turn pale. Only then did I realize something was wrong. Chapter 7. Although the journey was dangerous, there was always a way to resolve it. Grandpa Timothy had been shrewd all his life. With his son, daughter-in-law, and grandson meeting accidents one after another. He couldn't possibly believe they were just accidents. Given his abilities, he must have found out about Laurent long ago. It's just that Laurent not returning to the Garcia family for so many years was a trial for him. Grandpa was grooming an heir, not just retrieving a grandson. Timothy stood behind old Master Garcia and pushed his wheelchair out. Grandpa looked at the dejected crowd, his voice resounding. "Do you really think I'm senile and would let you do whatever you want?" The uncles and several middle-aged men from before all knelt down to admit their mistakes together. "My family business is not for you to meddle in. The heir to the Garcia family will only be my grandson, Timothy." At that moment, Timothy and I looked at each other across the crowd. I could feel his emotions right then. The excitement of finally returning to the family after years of planning, yet tinged with a trace of imperceptible sadness. After everything was over, Grandpa stopped me. He looked at me, then at Timothy. After looking at Timothy for a while, he sighed. "Let it be, let it be." Timothy stayed to accompany the old master for a long time. After that, the name Laurent gradually disappeared. The name Timothy became louder and louder through business battles. Those few people from the Garcia family were all bankrupted and jailed by Timothy's revenge. Finally, one day, I couldn't help going to the Garcia family to pick him up. Timothy rolled his eyes and called me clingy. While driving, I took his hand to my lips and kissed it gently. Arriving by a lake, I drove the car into the woods. Turning to Timothy, I said aggrievedly, "We haven't seen each other for 3 days, 6 hours, and 4,680 minutes. I really missed you." As I spoke, I took Timothy's hand and pressed it against my chest. My recent workouts were effective. Timothy's face indeed turned red. I had a way with teasing my brother. When the special assistant called, Timothy was startled. His back hit the steering wheel, honking the horn. The sound echoed in the woods, startling a flock of birds. I hugged his waist and answered the phone while he was trembling. Timothy glared at me and took the phone, but his breathing was unsteady, and I deliberately caused trouble again. Soon, the special assistant on the other end fell silent, then hung up. Timothy bit my neck in anger and wouldn't let go. I hugged him and couldn't stop laughing. Just thinking about the poker face of the assistant on the other end made me laugh. "Brother, what will happen to the group after you leave?" Timothy lay exhausted in my arms. "You manage it." "No way. The family fortune and I are both yours." Timothy rolled his eyes. I continued shamelessly, "Brother, just keep me. I still prefer being a playboy. You're more suitable to be a servant." "I'm not a servant. I'm your husband." Seeing he didn't speak, I started acting spoiled again. "All right then, you marry me, and I'll be my own sister-in-law." After his parents passed away, Laurent's world was left with only himself. At that time, his grandfather was immersed in the pain of losing his son and was hospitalized. It was then that those people turned their gaze to him, only 15 years old. Fortunately, his father had once done a favor for Angus's family, and Angus's parents secretly protected him. Unexpectedly, while out once, Angus's parents encountered a car accident and died, and even their son didn't survive. That boy was the same age as him but died in his place. From then on, he became Laurent. In his youth, he had also hated his grandfather's inaction. Thinking carefully later, the death of Timothy could deceive those people in the Garcia family, which must have involved his grandfather's arrangement. When he first met Angus, he was only 10. "From now on, I am your brother, your family. I will protect you for a lifetime." Angus, eyes swollen from crying, hugged him carefully and nodded. Since then, in Laurent's lonely life, there was a person named Angus. He was passionate and free, exactly what Laurent always aspired to be. But everyone has their own mission. His mission was to constantly improve himself, to take revenge, and to return to the Garcia family upright and dignified. Although Angus was unruly, he had listened to him since childhood. The only time he was truly angry was in junior high when Angus got into a fight with a classmate and put him in the hospital. When he went to the school with a grim face, the usually arrogant teenager lowered his head and shed tears. "They said I'm a child with no parents to care for me. I'm not, I have you." At that moment, Laurent had mixed feelings. If not for him, Angus would have had a happy life. Parents alive, a doting brother, but all this was ruined by him. He swore to be good to Angus for a lifetime, to compensate him desperately. But he never expected Angus would fall in love with him. When Angus confessed to him, Laurent first reflected on his upbringing methods, wondering if he hadn't taught Angus well, making him mistake dependence for love. Since 15, Laurent had been guarded against everyone. His life was full of hatred, and he never thought about romance. For such direct and passionate love from Angus, he felt afraid. He was afraid he wasn't as good as Angus thought, afraid Angus would hate him after knowing the truth. But as soon as Angus cried, his heart softened again. He just felt like letting him be. Those few days on the island were the most relaxed days of his life. No hatred, no pressure, just thinking about what to cook for Angus every day, whether to go surfing or sea fishing. But reality always arrives. When the special assistant sent a message via telegraph saying the Garcia family noticed him, his identity might be exposed. He had been very careful all these years. Hearing that the old master of the Garcia family was critically ill, he thought it must be the old master pushing him. Being with Angus always made one forget hatred. But the old master reminded him of his identity at all times. He should accept such trials and return to the Garcia family step by step on his own. This was his fate. Angus was the existence that broke all his fate. He began to worry that the Garcia family would notice Angus and control him by hurting Angus. So on that island, he left Angus behind and left alone, wanting to draw a line and have no further involvement. But he didn't expect that teenager to barge into his world again with full passion. Actually, that day when Angus was drugged and fell to the ground groaning in pain, he could have sent him to the hospital. But that sentence stuck in his throat, unspoken. Instead, a voice in his heart shouted, "Go on, admit it, you missed him too." Yes, such a good Angus. No one could reject him and neither could he. When the right people are together, life always goes smoothly. 6 months after dating, Bonnie and Amy decided to get married. Actually, before that, to help Angus, Bonnie kissed Amy in public for the first time near the Garcia ancestral home to attract everyone's attention. At that time, Amy's face was beet red. Reporters who rushed over upon hearing the news surged like a tide, capturing this scene. This photo stayed on the trending list for several days. Everyone saw their love. Netizens were more tolerant than imagined, all wishing them to go on forever. After the dust settled, Simon suggested everyone get together. It wasn't Laurent's first time meeting Angus's friends, but suddenly changing from Angus's brother to Angus's boyfriend, he was still a bit uncomfortable. Angus was carefree. "Brother, relax." Laurent nodded. Unexpectedly, Angus's friends were more easygoing and interesting than he thought. No wonder the three of them could hang out together. Their personalities really matched. So when he received the wedding invitation from Bonnie and Amy, he agreed readily. The wedding was set in Switzerland. Daisy had just given birth not long ago and didn't want to miss this wedding. Simon simply applied for a flight route, taking his wife, daughter, nanny, and others directly to Switzerland on a private jet. Angus shamelessly asked his brother for a honeymoon trip. For this, the two worked quite a lot of overtime at the company, finally freeing up time for a trip to Europe. At the wedding, Bonnie slowly narrated her and Amy's 12 years. What was surprising was Amy's words. "I like to take things slow, but I couldn't control my heartbeat for you, which is why I rejected you time and again. Do you know how happy I was when I discovered you were the one willing to take things slow?" That day's wedding was complete and full of happiness. Amy didn't throw the bouquet but handed it to Laurent. Laurent froze for a moment, just about to take it, but Angus snatched it. Angus shook the flowers, leaning close to his ear to whisper, "Brother, look, everyone is waiting to see you marry me." On the night the wedding ended, the two arrived in Iceland. Under the boundless aurora were continuous icebergs. Laurent was looking up at the aurora when he heard a thump behind him. Looking back, he found Angus kneeling on the ground, looking a bit embarrassed. "Used to kneeling too much. Brother, give me a hand." Laurent smiled and helped him up. This time, both knelt on one knee simultaneously, facing each other. Even more coincidentally, when both took out ring boxes from their pockets, they both froze. Finally, it was decided that the matching rings Laurent bought would be worn on their hands, and the ones Angus bought would be made into necklaces worn around their necks. One day, the special assistant was reporting work to Laurent as usual. Angus grinned and leaned into the video call, feigning surprise. "How did you know my brother proposed to me?" The special assistant looked confused. Angus was particularly smug, posting a status update specifically tagging the special assistant. Not only that, he tagged the assistant when getting the marriage certificate, specifically invited the assistant to the wedding, and even set his PDA posts to be visible only to him. While Laurent and Angus were honeymooning around the world. In the brightly lit building, the special assistant, staying up late every day to handle work, shed tears of a bitter corporate slave. I must have owed them in my past life. Everyone always says the world is full of happiness, but the special assistant felt otherwise. If you enjoyed this story, remember to subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much.